Yeah. Well, it gets into the 70s. It gets in the 70s, and basically in 1972, Sidney Gottlieb's officially retired. And he goes and he believes he's going to spend his retirement just relaxing and forgetting that MKUltra ever happened. You know, apparently he like becomes actually like kind of a hippie, and he's like living in like very small town, kind of quiet. He's like into yoga and all that stuff. And it's only 1 year later that MKUltra becomes public.
Right.
Watergate happens, and because of Watergate, a lot of files that were classified are now becoming public. Around this time, also, COINTELPRO becomes public knowledge, because now people have all these files of what the CIA and the FBI were doing. So COINTELPRO becomes public, and so does MKUltra. And people in the early 70s who they went to some apartment and someone gave them something and they started feeling weird, or people who are in federal prison like Whitey Bulger, who are like, hey, wait a minute, they were giving me some drugs that were made me feel exactly like how LSD is described. Or you have people like I just said his name, the poet,
Allen Ginsberg, who by the way, is he like a pedophile or some shit?
Oh, is he? I don't
know. I thought I heard that.
I don't know. But
whatever. I mean, not whatever.
Yeah,
like, if that's true,
I
fucking,
actually have no
that's
idea.
terrible.
All right, then fuck him.
I don't know. I might have made that up.
All these people are coming forward, realizing that they were part of this experiment, and it's very quickly and it's very clear that the CIA wants Sidney Gottlieb to be their fall guy. To pin it,
they're just like the goddamn mafia, dude. They fucking use you and then throw you out.
And Sidney Gottlieb basically spends his entire retirement, because in 1975, the Church Committee is created. Church Committee is created to basically find out what was MKUltra, what was the extent of it, and who is responsible. And the CIA had this idea of basically we're going to paint Sidney Gottlieb as this mad scientist who operated like without checking with authority, who basically ran this program all on his own, and that we're going to try to pin it completely on him. While in reality,
fucking losers.
All the high-ups of the CIA knew exactly what Sidney Gottlieb was doing. He wasn't going around acting on his own authority. Everything he did, he had with permission of the higher-ups.
Bunch of scumbags, dude.
Charges are eventually brought against Sidney Gottlieb. I was trying to look up...
That's terrible.
I was trying to look up exactly what charges were put against him. I couldn't find. I know they were planning on charging him with... I mean, you know, take your pick of, like, crimes, and, like, basically he did it. But... charges are brought against him in 1998. He dies in 1999.
So he enjoyed his retirement. Imagine that, dude. You fucking, like, you know, you work, like, he gave them what they wanted, and then they just fucking used him, man. I mean, I'm not defending the guy. I'm just saying that's how brutal the CIA is.
Exactly. But he dies like a few months before the trial is supposed to start. And
Unreal.
The basic idea of the Department of Justice and the CIA is, well, Sidney Gottlieb is dead. It was his experiment. He was the mad scientist, so there's no reason to continue this anymore.
As far as an investigation or whatever?
An investigation of basically...
Just like when they got David Berkowitz.
It was all Sidney Gottlieb's fault, and he's dead now.
Just like when they got David Berkowitz for a future episode.
For a future.
I mean, it's the same concept, though.
Yeah. And no one else is ever charged with a crime related to MKUltra. Frank Olson's son talked about that in the documentary Wormwood, of just like no one else, and he was just like I want to reopen it, but the thing is, like, almost everybody who was responsible for this is dead now.
Yeah, I mean, it fucking happened in 1953.
Yeah, so
and they were adults then.
Even if we wanted justice against who?
No, yeah, exactly.
You know, and it's terrible. Of like, you know, there are people. Yeah, I mean, you talk about like kind of generational trauma of just like there are horrible things that happened in the past.
Yes. That
if you're alive today, you weren't responsible for, but you were benefiting from them. And especially in the CIA, because after in 1973, when all these files are declassified, kind of changed how people thought about the CIA. It's not only that MKUltra is revealed to the public, it's also revealed to the public that during the 50s and 60s, the CIA was performing military coups all over South and Central America.
Which is true.
And it changed the idea of, wait a minute, the CIA is supposed to collect intelligence and that's it. Of like, they're experimenting on people, they're doing military coups. In Guatemala specifically, they did a military coup because the Guatemalan government wanted to kick out the United Fruit Company. So it's like, not only are they committing coups, which they're not supposed to be doing, their intelligence, they're committing coup d'etats on behalf of corporations.
Business, yeah.
Of like, they're involved in business now.
It's like, oh, this country's always been run by corporations.
It changed in the 70s, people's idea of what the CIA is changed. Right. And it made people like rethink of how it caused to like, you know, they claim they made changes in the CIA. They obviously didn't. A lot of people at the higher up got fired and replaced with new people who were like just as scummy. But it kind of turned back the curtain of this intelligence agency that we thought was on our side is not actually, for years, been behind the scenes pulling things and basically betraying the American trust.
We should talk a little bit about like the son, Frank Olson's son, who's like the main, well, Frank Olson's the main character, but he's the main kind of protagonist of the documentary Wormwood.
Son was, after 73, when it comes out, it also comes out that there's a CIA scientist who committed suicide in New York, who was involved in these MKUltra experiments at Fort Detrick. And Frank Olson's son sees that and is like, well, there's
Wait, you're saying oh, yeah, go.
Well, sees that and is like, well, there's no way there's another person besides my father who fits that exact same description.
Right.
And he starts the push after 73 of saying that my father did not commit suicide, that this program MKUltra, my father was murdered in order to keep a secret.
Up until then, what did the family think he passed away from?
Well, they thought it was suicide. Right. They were told that he jumped out the window in New York.
But it wasn't until 73 that they learned about the experiments?
They learned about the experiments. And now with the knowledge that Frank Olson knew about these government experiments that the CIA was doing, wanted to quit the CIA because morally he thought it was wrong. With that knowledge, they now came to the conclusion of, my father did not commit suicide. Yeah. My father was murdered in order to keep him quiet.
And his son has basically dedicated his whole life to writing the history books, if you will.
Yeah, he basically did. And it's a shame of just like, we've gotten to the point now where anyone who was responsible is long dead.
Yeah, I mean, he was been working on the Sun since the 70s, and when they had the meeting in the Oval Office and the settlement lawsuit, and then digging up the body and different medical examiners. I mean, decades he dedicated of his life, even to this day. And this documentary only came out 4 years ago,
but it led up to charges being brought against Sidney Gottlieb. And then Sidney Gottlieb died right after.
Yeah.
And then nothing.
Yep.
Because I think it's very clear, as soon as word got out about MKUltra, they're like, let's paint this as, the CIA isn't bad. We hired this guy who became a mad scientist.
Of course.
MKUltra was his thing.
It's a fall guy, like you said.